both sides of the pond.
Back here in the Bigfoot Beverages Studios, now Max Torres of Ducks Digest joining us to talk some Oregon Ducks football recruiting news. Max, how are you doing this week?
I'm great, Ryan. Glad to be back on the show. It has been a very busy week on the recruiting front, and I'm excited to talk some Ducks, as always.
Well, tell me about it. It was obviously a big week. There were a lot of recruits in town for the Washington game. What sort of results did we get out of that last weekend full of recruits at Autzen Stadium?
Yeah, I think you're still kind of waiting to see some quote-unquote results. I know a lot of fans were pretty upset about that loss, especially given the big recruits that were on campus. You had five-star Iowa offensive line commit Caden Proctor on campus. Things looks to be trending in the right direction for Oregon there, despite the loss. Iowa's not playing good football right now, and Oregon has never stopped on that recruitment, and their offensive line is still playing really well, one of the best units in the country. So I think that Oregon's in an awesome spot there with Proctor. He continues to be one of the names to monitor. Would not be super surprised if they're able to pull off that flip there. But we got to continue following that recruitment and seeing what's going on there. But yeah, a lot of big guys in town. Another one of them was 2023 LSU cornerback commit Dalen Austin. I've gotten to talk to him a number of times, and I feel really good about where Oregon's at there. That was an unofficial visit. He's heading back to Michigan State this weekend for an unofficial. But I know Oregon's trying to get him back on campus in December, and I think they're in an awesome spot there to I don't know, maybe potentially get him to put this commitment. But we got to see what happens there and then continue to follow those recruitments.
What about this week against Utah? Once again, another huge game for Oregon. Any big-time recruits coming to town this week?
Yeah, there are some big names that are expected in town this weekend, and I think the biggest name that we're tracking right now is 2023 Gardena Serra cornerback Roderick Pleasant. I stopped by Serra just yesterday, actually, talked to him and his teammate Dakota Fields, who was another defensive back on campus for Oregon last weekend for a visit. But this is a crucial visit for Oregon and Roderick Pleasant. It's his third official visit. We all know you get 5. He's taken official visits to Cal and Boston College, and now he's got Oregon this weekend. And Oregon's in an awesome spot here. I think one of the things that maybe gives them a leg up in this recruitment is the fact that Roderick Pleasant is a track guy, probably as much of a track guy as you'll find. California State record holder in the 100. I think the time is like 10.14, so blazing fast wheels with Roderick Pleasant, and that's obviously something Oregon needs in their secondary. Really think that he is a priority target for them, still on the board in this class. His family's going to be coming up with him. He hasn't been to Eugene since January, I believe it was. So he's just looking to kind of see what his role would look like in Eugene, what the game day operation looks like from a program perspective. What's unique about him, Ryan, is that he's looking to potentially obviously play defense, but also maybe some offense and special teams. So he's kind of looking at being an overall game changer when it comes to the Ducks. Hearing a lot from Michigan State, and both the LA schools are obviously on him as well with UCLA and USC. But what was kind of interesting when I talked to him is that he told me that he's been able to develop a really strong relationship with Dante Moore, Oregon's 5-star quarterback pledge. They met at the opening last summer, and they've been talking a lot, which is great to hear for Oregon fans because there was a little bit of smoke around Michigan State not too long ago. I reported that I think Oregon still feels really good about that recruitment, but Roderick Pleasant is definitely one of the biggest guys that you have to keep an eye on here. As far as his remaining 2 officials after Oregon, looking like probably Michigan, and then the last one's up in the air, but I would probably say Penn State if you had to give me a guess there. But he's the biggest guy that's probably uncommitted that's coming in. You also have 2023 safety Tyler Turner out of Texas, and 2023 defensive lineman Ashton Porter out of Cy Ranch High School in Cypress, Texas. He's going to be on campus this weekend after putting Oregon in his top 5, I believe, just about a week ago.
I do want to talk about Pleasant a little bit because you brought up a few things that I want to touch on. First of which, you mentioned him trying to be a two-way player. What would that offensive position be? Would it be wide receiver?
I'm kind of thinking it would be, yeah, definitely my wide receiver more so than, running back role. Oregon's running backs are loaded. That's the position that he would play a little bit on offense this year at Sarah. I saw him play against Long Beach Poly earlier in the year, and I was actually surprised that in that game that they lost, he didn't touch the ball on offense at all, which was a little bit of a head-scratcher to me because this guy is just lightning in a bottle. Not the biggest frame per se. I think he's around 5'9"-ish, I want to say, 173-ish. So I think it's probably looking at more of a wide receiver, but, with someone as electric and dynamic as him, I think that it'd be definitely exciting to get him involved on offense as well.
You also mentioned Pleasant in terms of track speed. That was something at the beginning of the season that was one of the biggest points of emphasis for this Oregon team, was that they had speed all over the field. And leading up to the season, it was a lot about how even the defensive linemen were doing races to try to get up their miles per hour and to try to increase that speed. Have you seen that in the recruiting efforts for Oregon, going particularly after some of those track guys that have elite level speed?
Oh, 100%. When you're looking at recruits, you got to look at the whole picture, and you'll see Oregon is oftentimes recruiting multi-sport athletes. Just another one that I saw not too long ago, Jerry Mixon at Sacred Heart Cathedral in San Francisco. He's committed to Oregon. He's going to be checking out ASU this weekend with his teammate R.L. Miller, who's committed to the Sun Devils. He plays basketball as well, Mixon does. So I think you want to get those guys that have, a diverse athletic background. They can just do more things, and they're more athletic. But as far as speed in particular, that's something that Dan Lanning's particularly been emphasizing when it comes to the skill positions, right? You're looking at wideouts like Ashton Kozart, Jurion Dickey. They're kind of both guys that I think they feel good, can take the top off the defense and do a little bit of everything. Kamari Terrell was a trap guy. He signed with Oregon in 2022, and he's already in Eugene enrolled, obviously, but he was a track guy as well. So you're seeing this Oregon staff really prioritizing, speed, short area burst, length in the secondary, and they're still going after some of those big-time guys in this 2023 class. Pleasant has that speed, but so does Dalen Austin. Dalen Austin, who I was talking to, he was saying, once I get out of the football season, I am a track guy. And that's kind of the priority. So they're absolutely prioritizing speed.
Switching gears a little bit, you got a chance to catch up this week with Mateo Uiagalelei. Can you tell me what you got out of that conversation and what updates you have on him?
Sure. Yeah, I was just at St. John Bosco yesterday. Got to talk to a trio of talented recruits over there. They're super loaded ahead of their game against Mission Viejo Friday evening. So with Mateo, a lot of the times when I talk to him, it's more of the same. Same schools are involved. Oregon, USC, Ohio State. But in the past week or so, maybe the start of the month, I don't have a super concrete timeline. An SEC school has emerged, and that is Georgia. Georgia has entered this recruitment for Mateo Uiagalelei. And what was interesting is that Mateo was telling me that he initiated that contact. He reached out to the Georgia Bulldogs, and obviously they're not gonna turn him away when they have a player his caliber still available. He kind of told me that he felt like his recruitment wasn't not going anywhere, but maybe felt a little bit stagnant. Like I said earlier, same school is kind of involved there, but. Obviously Georgia has a lot to offer him. They had the number 1 overall draft pick last year with Trayvon Walker, a historic defense that Dan Lanning was a part of, might we add. And they have a really established coaching staff under Kirby Smart. So Mateo will take an official visit out to Georgia. It's looking like that's probably going to come next weekend, after Thanksgiving is kind of what he was telling me. So that's certainly an interesting development given the teams that we've seen involved. And, Oregon's obviously still pushing very hard there. But that'll probably be, as of right now, Ryan, I think that'll probably be the last visit he takes before he makes his decision. He's an early signee, early enrollee guy, which is just about a month away. But he didn't rule out taking any other visits. It would just be, something that develops pretty last minute. So definitely a significant update there on one of Oregon's top targets still on the board in 23.
Oregon, this game coming up against Utah, it will be senior day, and some of the unit that is going to be completely full of seniors is the offensive line. You had an opportunity to talk with a JUCO offensive lineman this week in George Silva. What did you get out of that in terms of him and how the Ducks fit into that recruitment?
Yeah, that was an awesome interview to have, Ryan, because I really didn't know much about George Silva by the time he committed. Kind of a little bit of an unknown. As far as what I was able to get from him, he's a very, very raw athlete. This is his first full year playing football. He's a guy who has an extensive basketball background, but I was telling him in the interview, obviously he's doing something right if he's going to be going to Oregon. So, Adrian Clem has his connections in Southern California, and that's really kind of how Silva got on his radar. But you see him, 6'8", 300 pounds. I think he maybe projects as a little bit more of a project at Oregon. But a lot of schools expressed interest. A lot of big time schools expressed interest. But Oregon was the only big school that really pulled the trigger with an official offer. So he said he did his research, learned about Adrian Clem, his extensive background and achievement, and felt like Oregon was the right school for him. And it was kind of almost like one of those instant commit type of deals that you see in NCAA 14. So George Silva is an awesome guy. I really like his story. And I'm excited to see kind of what he can do once Adrian Clem and this Oregon staff gets him in Eugene.
Well, Max, we always appreciate it. We appreciate the update. It's going to be a huge week. Before we let you go, let the listeners know where they can find you and your work.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that, Ryan. As always, you can find me on Twitter at @MTorresSports. You can find me on DucksDigest.com. That's where I have the latest and greatest in Oregon football recruiting. You can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Oregon Football Max Torres if you want to watch me. And then you can also listen to me on your podcasting platform of choice with the Ducks Dish podcast. Those are all the best ways to find me.
Well, Max, we always appreciate you joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate you.